All right, you guys, thanks for being here. We've got 1 Kings chapter 3. Then Solomon formed a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her to the city of David until he had finished building his own house and the house of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem. The people were still sacrificing on the high places, because there was no house built for the name of the Lord until those days. Now Solomon loved the Lord, walking in his statutes of his father David, except he sacrificed and burned incense on the high places. So during the period of the Judges, the Israelites adopted the Canaanite custom of offering sacrifices at high places. The pagan Canaanites felt that the closer they got to heaven, the more likely it was possible that their prayers and offerings would reach their gods. Offering sacrifices at places other than the tabernacle was prohibited in Leviticus chapter 17. But nevertheless, this practice was commonly observed in Israel at this time, and Solomon adopted it himself. Verse 4. The king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night, and God said, "Ask what you wish me to give you." Then Solomon said, "You have shown great loving kindness to your servant David my father, according as he walked before you in truth and righteousness and uprightness of heart toward you. And you have reserved for him this great loving kindness, that you have given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. Now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David. Yet I am but a little child. I do not know how to go out or come in." Scholars believe that Solomon was about 20 years old at this time, but wisdom-wise he was still an infant. Your servant is in the midst of your people which you have chosen, a great people who are too many to be numbered or counted. So give your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, to discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours? It was pleasing in the sight of the Lord that Solomon had asked this thing. God said to him, "Because you have asked this thing, and have not asked for yourself long life, nor have asked riches for yourself, nor have you asked for the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself discernment to understand justice. Behold, I have done according to your words. Behold, I have given you a wise and discerning heart, so that there has been no one like you before you, nor shall one like you arise after you." And there is a lot to take away from this statement. Solomon skipped over prayers that focused on himself, and instead, as a leader, asked God to help him understand how to take care of his people. And as a father, this one actually stopped me for a couple moments. All right, verse 13. "I have also given you what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that there will not be any among the kings like you all your days, if you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and commandments, as your father David walked. Then I will prolong your days." So he's got this golden egg here, and he better not drop it. Then Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem, and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered burnt offerings, and made peace offerings, and made a feast for all his servants. Then 2 women who were harlots came to the king and stood before him. The one woman said, "O my lord, this woman and I live in the same house, and I gave birth to a child while she was in the house. It happened on the 3rd day after I gave birth, that this woman also gave birth to a child, and we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, only the 2 of us in the house. This woman's son died in the night because she lay on it. So she arose in the middle of the night and took my son from beside me while your maidservant slept, and laid him in her bosom, and laid her dead son in my bosom. When I rose in the morning to nurse my son, behold, he was dead. But when I looked at him carefully in the morning, behold, he was not my son, whom I had born. Then the other woman said, No, for the living one is my son, and the dead one is your son. But the first woman said, No, for the dead one is your son, and the living one is my son. Thus they spoke before the king." And if this is one of the first jobs as a king that Solomon got, I'm thinking he's a little disappointed right now. Then the king said, "The one says, 'This is my son who is living, and your son is the dead one.' And the other says, 'No, for your son is the dead one, and my son is the living one.' The king said, 'Get me a sword.' So they brought a sword before the king. The king said, "Divide the living child in two, and give half to the one and half to the other." Then the woman whose child was the living one spoke to the king, for she was deeply stirred over her son, and said, "Oh, my lord, give her the living child, and by no means kill him." But the other said, "He shall be neither mine nor yours. Divide him." Then the king said, "Give the first woman the living child, and by no means kill him. She is his mother." When all Israel heard of the judgment which the king had handed down, they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to administer justice. No doubt it was. Well handled, Solomon. Very well handled. And praise be to God. That'll do it for the day. I'll be picking up tomorrow. Hope you can join me. God bless you.